This is the 37th video of the wargaming of Wargame Design Studios American Civil War battle known as the 7 Days or the 7 Days campaign or the Peninsula campaign. It was Union General George B. McClellan's campaign against the capital of the Confederacy at Richmond, Virginia. It is June 26, 1862, 6:20 p.m. Turn 90 out of 407 turns. In this series, the second one, I'm playing the Confederates. The game's artificial intelligence is playing the Union. And it's a continuation of Confederate movement. Now, I had an overwhelming victory in the other game I'm playing, the Napoleonic Battle of Friedland, but I quit that game because the combat table is really screwed up. And so I'm not going to play probably the Napoleonic series anymore. And I'm not playing the World War II series. There's a whole bunch of games there because of the same thing. And the way they use artillery is ridiculous in that game. It's way, way too powerful. And I pointed out that fact. And it's totally, I mean, artillery, granted, was important. It caused roughly 80% of the casualties, but it couldn't fire all the time, all the way across the board, day or night or bad weather. I mean, how does that happen? It's World War II. They didn't have satellites up in the sky. So at night, they fire with the same effectiveness as during the day. And in bad weather, it's the same thing. And if any unit on the board can spot an enemy unit, a huge number, well, in fact, all artillery within range can fire at it. Now, that was true to a degree in the American Army because they had target on, what is it, TOT? I forget what that stone said. It's target on some time on target. But they could combine several bot batteries. They had the infrastructure set up to do that. But the initial spotters had to be able to see the target. And I'm just going to digress for a couple of minutes here. Now, in World War II, you take the American Army or the German Army, it's the same. Let's take the American Army. So they had an artillery spotting unit for each battalion. The division's artillery, they had, I think, 4 battalions of artillery, 3 105s and a 150 battalion. The 105 battalions were in support of each of the infantry battalions, 1 per battalion. The 150 battalion was a counter battery battalion. Now, each infantry battalion had a spotter unit, and that consisted of 3 men, an officer to actually do the spotting, a driver to drive the jeep, and a radio man to call it in. Now, the best case situation, they would lay wire out 2 miles for the spotter, and then they were in good communications. if the wire was disrupted, like it was in the initial bombardment, it would become inoperable and they would have to rely on radios. Now the radios were affected by elevation, by forest, by fog, by snow. All those things made radios relatively unreliable. I mean, just read about Arnhem in the Battle of Market Garden, the 1st British Airborne Division, how effective those radios were for them. And so you'd have to have a die roll, and it wouldn't be very high if you were in low ground. So you'd never be able to arrange for the Americans to combine their fire. And that was true in the Battle of the Bulge. So you'd have a die roll, and each negative terrain factor would lower your die roll. So it'd be extremely unreliable unless you laid wire. And they always laid wire because it was the most reliable, but it took like a turn to do it. And the wire only went 2 miles, maximum of 2 miles. Now, depending on what game you're playing, if you play this company's game, then each hex is kilometer, so you could send wire out 3 hexes from your infantry battalion, and the maximum that a spotter could see units was 4,000 yards. So there's 1,760 yards in a mile, so he could see out another 3 hexes. So under the best circumstances, you could see out 3 hexes from the artillery unit. And maybe only 4, because if it was fog, which it usually was in the morning and early evening, or it was snow, you'd only be able to see out into the adjacent hex. So spotting was difficult for artillery, and that made it a lot less effective than anybody can fire at anything anybody sees. That wasn't true. A spotter unit had to be the one doing the spotting. An infantry battalion couldn't do it unless they had a spotter unit with them. So, I mean, it was their artillery is a complete misunderstanding of how artillery was handled, and they missed out on the fact that during the first day, the Germans broke all the wires. So the Americans were barely able to fire. So that's one of the things that pissed me off. And then their combat table seemed to be off, just like in the Napoleonic games, where you have an artillery, 2 artillery batteries right next to an enemy unit. They're fully deployed with low fatigue, and they can't fire. Give me a break. Their guns are loaded, and what are they? They're too afraid to touch the match to the gun to fire it. And in another instance, in the very next hex, I had an artillery battery, and it was able to fire. So, I mean, there's no consistency there. And I know what they do in this game, or for this company, which is really stupid. They have random die rolls, and things get fucked up. So all of a sudden, your one infantry battalion in a road march gets disordered for no good reason. Or it marches off the road, or it decides not to fire. And I mean, I know that stuff happened, but it's ridiculous to incorporate that in a war game, because then you should have a die roll if each unit moves or does anything. I mean, it gets to be ridiculous. So they have these random die rolls. So you're in this line of march, and then one of your units gets disordered, and you can't proceed. I mean, as if they're going to let that unit, and I don't know what disorder means. They just lie down and go to sleep in the middle of the road, and no other unit can pass them. I mean, what is the stupidity of the logic of that? If they're disordered for some reason, they're not going to be on the road. They'll move off the road, and everybody else will move by. And then, what is the logic for the disorder? Oh, it's just a random die roll. Oh. Well, I'm not a big fan of random die rolls. You should have a reason to make a die roll. And their disorder is stupid anyway with their Napoleonic, even in these Civil War games, because if you're disordered, you can change formation. How the hell are you going to be able to change formation if you're disordered? I mean, it's stupid. So I don't know. It's just a lot of stupid games, and unfortunately, with these computer games, it's great that they have artificial intelligence, but there's stuff behind the scenes you want to know about, like the combat table. And usually, I don't know whether they get the janitor to develop some of the stuff, like the combat tables, just because he has some spare time, or the guy that cleans the windows. But it seems like it, because it's people that don't understand how combat proceeded in the historical periods they're developing a game for. It's like it's a D&D person, Dungeons and Dragons, some other dumb shit. When people play a historical battle, they want to be able to duplicate the battle. They don't want everything die rolled they do and nothing works. And that happened to a degree, but not for no reason at all. If a column is marching down the road, one battalion didn't decide for some reason to become disrupted. I mean, what? He tripped over a gopher hole and disrupted his whole unit? I mean, the logic is just stupid. So anyway, since I've subscribed to Illustrator, and I've always had an older copy of it, I'm starting to redraw these maps, and the first one I'm doing is Battle of the Bulge. And I think I like GMT's Time for Trumpets. Is that it? Yeah, Time for Trumpets. Their Battle of the Bulge game. So I'm redrawing the map, and it looks like the rules are pretty good. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I need to do much with the rules, but I can see the combat table and the sense of it, and it seems to not be too bad. I might find out differently when I'm playing it, but at least I can see it. In these games, you can't see it, so you don't know what their combat table looks like or how asinine it is. It probably would shock you, and that's a shame, because I really like these games. But the more I play them, the more I find out I don't like them, I guess. So I'm just going to redraw them and make up the rules that make sense. And yeah, I'm going to lose Fog of War, but in a lot of these cases, I'm not sure that's going to matter all that much, because, first of all, AI has a lot of weaknesses. AI cannot think. It could just react. So you can always do a flank move around AI because it doesn't do any scouting. Now, if I were playing myself, that wouldn't happen. And it's not because I can see all the pieces. It's because I know that that road leads to my rear, and I should see if anybody's traveling down that route. So I send scouts out all over the place, and I'm going to detect that. So even though there's fog of war, and I might not know exactly where the enemy is, I know that if AI doesn't see me, it usually doesn't do anything. It waits for something to happen. So I can find out where AI is, and AI doesn't know where I am. So in effect, there's not much of a fog of war for AI. I'm sure AI doesn't know what I'm doing because what AI can't see doesn't react to. But if AI sees something, then it reacts. And it usually reacts by attacking. So, you can get in a good defensive position, throw out a unit or two, and AI will pretty much be suckered in. Because it's reactive. It doesn't think, oh, that might not be a good idea for me to go out in the open like that. It just goes out there because that's the way it's programmed. So AI has terrific limitations. If you're playing a human player, a player knows, oh, that isn't very safe, me going out in the open and him being all set up in a strong defensive position. So he probably won't do it. AI will. So I think it's a much better game for me to play myself because it's like Alexander the Great playing Napoleon, the kind of phrase. And, it's not like fog of war is usually a big deal because with artificial intelligence, they don't get any benefit from it. Anyway, that's all I got to say on it. So I'm going to be spending most of my time just doing maps. And so this one, we'll keep going with it. Until it reaches some point where it's obvious it isn't very good. It seems okay so far. Now, like I said, the Napoleonic games I've given up on. The World War II games they publish I've given up on. And the Civil War ones are the last ones. And so we'll see what happens here. But let's go on here. That's my rant for the day. And we're going to do Confederate movement here. So let's see what I've got to do. Okay, I think I did the movement here. We'll see what happens. I'm putting these guns up on high ground. If they start blasting me, then I'll get off this ridge. These guys are all hidden. Let's get this supply up here. Let's see if this guy can entrench. No. See, that's another thing, too. The entrenchments here are completely arbitrary. A unit will be right next to each other in the same hex, same terrain. One will be able to entrench, the other won't. It doesn't make any friggin' sense at all. Unless they're die rolling on each unit to entrench. which is kind of a stupid way to do it. I'd have to give it some thought, but that's a dumb way. But that's the way they're doing it. And then you can entrench in the woods, which is kind of goofy. I don't know what that gets you. I mean, you got the trees to hide behind. I'm not sure why you should be able to entrench in the woods. And a lot of times on open ground, you can't entrench. And I have to do a little more research on that, but okay, when you're entrenching, basically you're cutting down trees, you're setting up logs, you're piling up stones. In some cases, you're digging like entrenchments, and maybe there's no trees around. I don't know. There were all these fences around everywhere. They were using them as well, so I don't know. But it seems to me these entrenchment rules aren't very good in this game. Okay, enough of my rants. Okay, I've moved these guys. Moved him. Moved him. Okay, all these guys have moved. I might be done with the movement, actually. This guy's moved. There's the walking wounded. They've moved. I might be done with movement. Some more reinforcements. They've moved. Oh, these guys haven't moved. Walking wounded. $140 fatigue points. That's too many to fight. 458. Now see, this is another thing in this game, fatigue recovery, that I don't like. It's parameter data. They should have fatigue recovery here. Friggin' dummy. I think the janitor wrote these rules too. Now why don't they have fatigue recovery? Stacking, command. Anyway, as I recall, it's real low. And it's stupid because it's in a percentage, like 5% a month or something like that. You know, if you look at it mathematically, you'll never recover all of your fatigue at 5% because it's 5%. Like here, ammo loss. It's in percentage, fire modifiers. Let's see, it won't cover it. I think it's about 5% though. So it'll never get too close to zero. And it's really slow. You know, if you think about it, okay, when they were fighting in the Petersburg crater, Gordon's brigade fought hard all day, and they pretty much collapsed that night. But by the following afternoon, they were ready to fight again. In this game, you can get like 800 fatigue, and that'll take you a whole week to recover. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, because you can only recover, I think, at night 5% each night turn. There might be 8, 9 night turns, and during the day it's like half as much. So if you recover 100 fatigue a day, you'd be lucky, but these units have 800 fatigue, and that 800 fatigue believe me, is not greater than that fight Gordon's brigade did in the Petersburg crater. And they were ready the following afternoon. They got in their position like midnight, and they probably slept that night and all morning, and then they were ready. In this game, you can't. These units I have down here, their fatigue won't recover for about 5 days. Maybe the rest of the game they'll be here. So I'll probably get pissed with this game too. Because the janitor developed it. Well, we'll see. See, 575. How can you get that high? I mean, if you're exhausted at 300, how can you go up to 500? This guy hasn't moved. 300 should be it. You should recover that in a day. Where's that damn supply train? Is that ahead? Oh, I guess it is. Here it is. Let's go. Oop. Movement is 0. He moved. Okay, let's see. Brewery's Bluff. I don't have much to go here. Oh, we're almost. Which road should we take? This outer one. Yeah, sad to say. I mean, on these games, there should be a lot of designer notes. And those designer notes are stupid because they talk about the historical battle. Talk about how you design things. Look at the combat table in detail. Look at your movement. Look at melee. How did you design that? Based on what data? And you find out most of them probably don't have any data. It's just, I think they watched a movie on TV and that was their source. They didn't look at any statistics on how casualties were actually caused. I already got one more thing. Ah, shit. Got down here. Bring up this brigade. Let's get rid of. It's my data rant today. I just get so tired. These games that have great potential are designed by fools. Kind of like Joe Biden's complete morons. It's like Joe Biden designed this game. Okay, we got a couple of loose units up here. Okay, this is our scout, so this one's marching back. Alright, I think that's it. Oh no, it's not. Shit. I keep forgetting about all these units I've got. All these guys move? No. Shit, none of them moved. Okay. This is Stonewall Jackson's division. He's going to replace. And this is here's a third thing. Yeah, I might not finish out this game. We'll see. This is what I hate about this game, night. You can attack at night, even with disordered units. And a favorite trick of AI is to take all his disordered units and attack you, because AI doesn't care what the fatigue is of his units, and he figures disordered units are worthless. AI never attempts to rebuild disordered units or take them out of disorder, just keeps them in combat. So its favorite trick is to come up at night and make you fire, because if you fire, you get a fair amount of fatigue, 50 fatigue points. And he'll make you fire, and then he'll fire your artillery to put more fatigue on it. He'll keep doing that. And they never did that in the Civil War. You tell me how many night attacks they had. As far as in major battles, I can't think of one. But in this game, you can do night attacks all the time. It's stupid. And you get completely exhausted marching at night. Well, a lot of times... Oh, I'm grabbing the captured guns. Okay, what the hell's going on here? Yeah. A lot of times, units marched at night. And they rested during the morning, and they were ready for combat in the afternoon. Look at Gettysburg, Hood's and McLaw's division. They marched at like 2 in the morning. So if you don't get any rest, yeah, you're going to be tired. And you're going to be exhausted, but if you rested during the day, which those divisions did, and you march at night, you're not going to be exhausted because you rested during the day. But in this game, there's no provisions for you resting during the day. It assumes when you're making night movement, you're getting fatigue every turn. And then the really stupid thing is when you're fatigued, you can march at your normal rate. I'm out of movement, which is really dumb. So you're fatigued, but you can still march at your normal rate. So this is what I mean. The janitor is doing a lot of these developments. You know, he unplugs a toilet, and then he goes over and writes some rules for one of their games, because they don't want to pay anybody to do a proper design. Now, the only exception I can see to this, and this is a lot of the online games are like this, because they can hide a lot of stuff. Like they can hide their combat tables and a lot of stuff, so nobody knows how badly they're written. But you can see a lot of the rules are stupid beyond belief. Now, the one gaming company that I really like is GMT. They do an outstanding job. And they have professionals doing the development, as far as I can tell. So that might be the one exception. But their war games are astounding. Their maps are beautiful. Their counters are nice and thick, nicely colored. Their rules are a thing of beauty. They use a lot of color in their rules, and most of them are fairly well written. Their combat tables are just beautiful. But these online developments have not achieved that. Now, SPI, just before they went out of business, were great. They did a wonderful job with their graphics and everything. And that was what? 60 years ago, 50 years ago. But these online games, I noticed when you play them, is historical war games. They've got people working on them. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And they do a lot of fudge factors, like when you have die rolls for everything. That's a fudge factor. Instead of making decent rules, You just do die rolls for everything. Like entrenching. It shouldn't be a die roll. If you're ordered to entrench, it all depends on the terrain. If you're in the swamp, yeah, you can't entrench. If you're in the woods, you shouldn't be able to entrench. How the hell are you going to build entrenchments in the middle of the woods? And what good is it going to do? You just hide behind a tree. But out in the open, you should always be able to build entrenchments. Now I'm going to have to read further on it. From what I've seen, and there may be some justification for not building it anywhere. I don't know. But it looks like they really didn't dig a ditch like they did during World War II. They dug foxholes and ditches. It looks like you just piled up shit, like logs and stones, dirt. But I don't know. Even the Romans dug trenches, so I would think they actually could dig a trench. Which means on any clear hex they should be able to entrench. And if they're near the woods, yeah, maybe they get a stronger entrenchments because they can use some trees and make some rifle slots through the trees. I don't know. But I'm going to have to read more about entrenchments in the Civil War, I guess. But I know the way they're being handled by this game isn't good, and it isn't historically accurate. It's just a die roll thing, which is a stupid way to handle it, which is the way a janitor would handle it. And it's a shame. These games have the potential to be great, but you got fools working on them. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, by the way, that sound in the back, that's my clothes washer, or clothes dryer going. Let me see if those things are dry yet, then I can shut that damn thing off. Hold on a minute. Okay, they were dry, so we don't have to listen to that noise anymore. Okay. Do I need to adjust any of these guys? I don't think so. This guy might get fired on. Let's put him closer over there. Alright, let's see what goes here. Union defensive fire. Bang bang, fatigue. No effect. 17. Ooh, shit. I'll have to pull back. 8. Fatigue. Fatigue. 4 supplies. Oh, that rat. 12. I can't be on the edge of the woods. What a shame. Okay, none of these guys can fire. Now let's see. What have I got here? Units in line. Units in line. We've got guns. Let's see if I do any damage. Shit, one gun. I'm gonna fire at the artillery if it's just, oh, can't even do that. Oh, he can't fire. So he just moved up there. Well, takes care of all those guys. This guy can fire, but I don't know whether he can see anything. Let's try firing at some artillery. Fatigue, oh, we can. Cannot fire. Can fire. Fatigue. Okay, these guys can fire. 40, that was a good hit. Now, if they can fire at me, I should be able to fire at them. Oh, Christ. Smoothbore musket. Can only fire one hex. This is a rifle. Fatigue. And I don't know whether this guy can see him. Nope. These guys cannot fire because they just turned. But this infantry regiment. Oh shit, it can't even fire. Oh, they're down in a ditch. Okay, these guys are, I think these guys might be able to fire. I don't think they're down in a ditch. Yeah. What do we got here? We got 2 units in a line. Okay. We will fire. In a rifle musket, I'll fire all 3. 25, not too bad. We'll try to fire these guys. I think they're in a ditch. Yeah. I think that's it. We'll see where these guys move. No melee. Union movement. Okay. He is spread out all over Kingdom Come. Oh, now he moved away from attacking me. I guess he didn't like those casualties. So he's going to try to hit me on the flank. Thinks it'll be better there. We'll see. Oh, here he comes. Right next to me. Surprise! He couldn't see into that hex. It's lower. I don't know what the hell the robot's doing up here. Just lines up for crossing and never crosses. Robot logic is puzzling. Okay. Now, what do we got here? 2 infantry battalions. These guys finally can fire. 2, huh? It's pretty pathetic. Might as well fire at the artillery. Whoop. Ah, it's clever. He's shielding the artillery. Shit. Well, what do we got here? See, that's another thing. That robot plays a dirty game. Like, when did they ever shield artillery with infantry? But the robot does it. Okay. We'll continue firing at this guy, even if we only get a couple of casualties. 5. They'll add up after a while. 4. 3. Add up to like 20 a turn. 6. Oh, this guy's faced the wrong way. 7. Yeah, that adds up to about 20. That isn't too bad. So these guys are hunkered down. This guy. 28. That was pretty good. He's in column. He won't get nothing. No, this guy. Oh shit, he's on low ground, isn't he? Let's see. Yep, so he can't see anybody, which is okay. But I always get tempted to shoot with him when somebody's close, so these guys will shoot. Okay, we gotta ding this guy, 87. This guy's coming here thinking, oh, there's nobody there. That's all the shooting I can do. Let's see what he's going to do. 2. No effect. 7 supplies. Jesus. Fatigue. No effect. 9 supplies. Christ. 6 supplies. I gotta get those supply units out of there. No effect. 13. Fatigue. Okay. Melee that guy. He lost 66. I got 33, so we got double the casualties. Yeah, he disordered me, but he disordered himself too. Okay. So. Let's move this guy back here. Turn him down. Put him underneath. This guy, we'll turn him down 1 click. Turn this guy down. Now, got low ground here. We do. Now, is the cavalry going to get disordered by crossing this stream? Shit, these guys are all big. I want somebody that's like 50 men. Shit. Well, this is 135 men. Let's see if he gets disordered. Let's put him in mounted mode. Move him across the stream. He doesn't. Good news. All right. I'll start moving behind him on low ground. That'll give me something to do with my cavalry. Instead of just sitting here, I'll put everybody in motion. All right. I get disordered crossing that. No. I'm going to take this artillery away down here. Let's get more of this cavalry out. We'll see how you like having another front open behind you. We'll lumber this guy up. Lumber this guy up. Lumber this guy up. Alright, let's shut off. We're running out of time here. Let's shut off elevations. Apparently he likes blasting these supply units, so we'll put them up. Oh, he doesn't like. Alright. What do we have? Branch. LZ. We'll put branch up here. These guys will continue down the road. Three more minutes. Won't even get done moving these guys, but that's okay. Jackson is on the field. Yeah, AI games are kind of like the electric cars. It's okay and a step in the right direction, but it's not prime time yet. Electric cars are like that. Lithium is way too expensive and too unstable a battery source. I don't see how they can even allow it to drive on the road or park next to anything. Like a lot of parking garages won't even let them in there. For good reason. I don't want to park next to an electric vehicle. Damn thing will blow up at the drop of a hat. And it could be just a fender bender he had 6 months ago. If one of those 8,000 battery connections got partially disconnected, that's all it takes. But it's progress, but it's not prime. They're not prime time. That's why nobody wants to buy them. Just a bunch of goofs bought them that have more money than brains. But the normal people that have intelligence, they don't want to touch them. There's not only the instantaneous combustion problem, but there's a lot of other issues with electric cars, like no electric grid, or a grid powered by fossil fuel. Well, if windmills and solar panels are so good, there should be a law that whenever you build a charging station, it has to be powered by windmills and solar panels. Can't be powered by electricity, because electricity is fossil fuel. And let's see how many electric cars would be charged. One at the charging station, that'd be it. And if it's at night where there's no wind and no solar power, oh yeah, you can't charge your electric car overnight. It should be illegal to charge an electric car with electricity. You can't do it at home. Unless you have a windmill, you got to hook it up to the car. But when there's no wind, what do you do? Well, then you get a kick scooter. You take that to work. Dumbass. That's what you get for buying an electric car. Well, only dumbasses. Whenever I see electric cars, it's like, oh, there's another dumbass. They get the, what is it, Toyota, I think. They've got the, God, what's the name of their battery? Solid state. If they get that to work, that might not be bad. It's built out of silicon, which is basically from sand. A lot of that around. And it doesn't go thermal. In fact, there's very little chance it's going to either explode or catch fire. Now that's the way to go. And with war games, you got the same thing. You got artificial intelligence, but all it's good for really at this point is a player aid, because it can't think. So yeah, you can fight artificial intelligence. It's pretty good in combat where it can see stuff, like tactical combat. It's pretty good, but if there's something it can't see, it doesn't know how to think. Like a human sees a major road behind its rear and wonders, well, could an enemy, or on its flank, let's say, and they'll think, well, an enemy might be able to use that road, so I should send a scout there to see if anything's coming down it. But AI will not do that because it can't think. It can only react. If it sees something coming down the road, it can react. But if it doesn't see it, you just make sure it doesn't see it. You creep around and set yourself up. And you can do a Stonewall Jackson Chancellorsville flanking move real easy on AI, which is fun. Don't get me wrong, it's not fun. It's not that it's not fun, it is. But still, you're not playing with somebody that has a full deck. It's like playing against Joe Biden. What kind of a victory is that? The moron. Well, let's pull this guy back. I don't like it up there. Keep this guy here. Let's see if I can entrench him. I can. It makes sense. You can entrench in the woods. Oh yeah. Oh, this guy's disordered, so we'll move him out of the way. Put this guy in line. Move him up. What's this artillery here? Put this guy in line. Let's go out a little with this guy. Supplies. Oh, he's moved already. Just bring up the artillery. Shit, another supply. I don't have any men. I need more men. Alright, this yokel. I guess we're set up as good as we can be. let's see what the situation is. Oh shit, we're at an hour, so I'll have to can it after I look at this. Alright, he's on high ground, we're on low ground. He can't see me until, in order to fire at me, until he gets right there. So he can't shoot at me and I can't shoot at him. That's good. Alright. So we will stop this today. We'll continue on tomorrow.